Colonel Robert Evans. Late that afternoon, elements of my wing were circling, waiting to hear what happened to my aircraft. I say hear because they couldn't see us in the clouds, and we couldn't see the ground. It was a game of blind man's buff. It looked like we didn't have a chance.
Instrument of flight, a tube from a G.C.A. receiver. In the next 30 minutes, you'll hear G.C.A. mentioned frequently. G.C.A. means ground control approach. This tube looks and acts like the tube in your television set. With it, a trained expert can pinpoint a plane in flight by means of radar. But this is not the story of a technical instrument. It's the story of a human being, Colonel Robert Evans, who was stationed in Arizona at a Strategic Air Command base early in 1947 when G.C.A. was still in its infancy. We'd better begin in Berlin, a city at that time on the edge of chaos. The former German capital was supposed to be under four-power control, but the Russians began to stymie all efforts at cooperation. A new phrase came into being, Cold War. Finally, they walked out of the Control Council completely. According to their timetable, four-power rule was dead. The next step was a Soviet takeover. Reacting to this situation, the Joint Chiefs of Staff dispatched General Theodore Baxter on a special mission to the Davis-Monthan Air Force Base in Arizona. This is where Colonel Bob Evans came into our story.
Take my desk down?
No, you sit there. This is fine.
It's warm this morning, sir.
You didn't complain. As usual, the weather in the east's been rotten, cold, rain. You fly through that pea soup for a while, you'd appreciate this Arizona sunshine.
True, the weather doesn't bother our operations, sir. Cigarette?
No, thanks. Go right ahead.
General, I'm sure you didn't come here for the ultraviolet.
Infrared would be more like it. And if you said Russian red, you'd be right on the beam. Evans, have you been keeping up with the Berlin situation?
I have, sir. Doesn't look good.
The only thing the Soviets seem to understand is force. And Washington has decided to give them just that.
Sounds reasonable, sir.
Trouble is, we're not sure that we're capable of mounting such a show. You'll have to decide for us.
Me, sir.
We want them to know that if the need arose, we could hit a target anywhere in Eastern Europe without refueling. Can you do that?
Well, sir,
Before you answer one way or the other, let me say that we know your unit has been on training status, that you've had maintenance problems, that you're far from being operational, but you're the best bombing unit we've got available.
Giving me a big responsibility, sir.
Well, no one knows your own capabilities as well as you do. In Washington, they say you've got a mind like a computer. Now, you say you can make it. The commission is yours.
We can make it, sir.
Good. Good. I'll call Washington. You'll have a special order on the teletype in 15 minutes.
Yes, sir.
When do you estimate you can be airborne?
By midnight, sir.
I'll tell Washington you'll be in the air at 1700.
You hold it? There.
Want to take a swim?
No, thanks. Why don't we just go on home?
Sure.
Attention, all crew members of the 91st Bomb Wing will report immediately to operations. Repeat, all crew members of the 91st Bomb Wing will report to operations immediately.
Nancy, I'll see you later. Oh, wait a minute. I don't know how long it'll be before I see the real thing again. Goodbye, honey.
While the air crews were reporting to the base, the maintenance boys were doing themselves proud. Maintenance procedures that normally took hours were compressed into minutes. This is a long flight, gentlemen, almost 6,000 miles. Therefore, the most exacting cruise control procedures will be necessary. We'll fly at 18,000 feet all the way where we can get some help from the wind. A high-pressure area over most of Western Europe should make for clear weather at Rhine, Maine. Now, are there any questions? You may call your wives, gentlemen, but tell them only that you're going on extended TDY. In exactly 30 seconds, it will be 1627. That's all.
When do you think I'll see her again?
That tailwind's not as strong as predicted. Pilot to engineer, let's lean the mixture. We're not getting the help from the wind we expected. That'll give us another 20 minutes worth of fuel when we get over Rhine, Maine. As we neared the continent of Europe, word of our coming spread among the German population. They were grateful. To the Russians, the reasons behind our mission were clear.
When the B-29s left Arizona, we had every reason to expect perfect weather here at Rhine, Maine. Let me show you what's happened now, sir. This old high-pressure system has suddenly dissipated. The weather for the entire continent is rapidly deteriorating.
What can we expect?
Rain, fog, low ceilings.
Officer ought to get a new crystal ball. Look at that stuff.
This altitude, we're close to the freezing level. Let's climb, see if we can top it. Add power.
It's gonna take more fuel.
Roger. Iron gate leader to wing. Climb to 21,000 feet and level off. Rhine Main Tower.
Iron Gate Leader, this is Rhine Main Tower. Go ahead.
What's the weather down there?
Rhine Main to Iron Gate Leader. Ceiling is now reported at 300 feet. Visibility 1/2 mile.
What about alternate fields? Over.
Rhine Main to Iron Gate Leader. All fields west of here are below minimums.
Iron Gate Leader, this is Colonel Meade. Ceiling has dropped to 200 feet. Visibility holding at 1/2 mile with slight drizzle. The nearest open field is Milan. Can you make it?
Rhine Main, this is Iron Gate Leader. Negative. We cannot reach Milan. Estimate we will arrive over Rhine Main with minimum fuel. Is your G.C.A. standing by?
Roger. However, our G.C.A. equipment was just installed. It has not been flight tested.
Do you think they can bring us in?
Stand by. I'll contact you from our G.C.A. unit. Maybe this stuff will lift.
What are the chances? Very doubtful, sir.
The Russians will be dancing in the streets.
Yes, sir. They're not hit by falling B-29s.
All Iron Gate ships, this is Iron Gate leader. Estimating Rhine, Maine, 11 minutes. Ceiling 200 feet. Visibility 1/2 mile. Status of G.C.A. equipment doubtful.
Colonel, what's the lowest ceiling you ever landed through?
I made a penetration at Westover when the weather was down to 150 feet. The G.C.A. was excellent. As we neared Rhine, Maine, the whole world knew of our mission and was following it. The Russians, who were aware of the bad weather, were delighted. Any mishap, and American air power would be made to look ridiculous. And in truth, the prestige of American air power was as close to zero as the gasoline in our tanks.
They'll break down there yet. From the looks of things, we can't expect one either.
I guess not. Give me the G.C.A. channel. Rhine, Maine, G.C.A. Do you read Iron Gate leader?
Roger, Iron Gate leader. This is your G.C.A. operator. I read you 5 square.
Can you bring us in?
Iron Gate leader, this is Colonel Meade. The G.C.A. operator tells us that there hasn't been time to calibrate the equipment. He said it's in operation, but there is a 50-50 chance it'll bring you in up to a couple of 100 feet either side of the runway, or above or below the glide path.
Roger. What about obstruction?
To the left, you're okay, but on the right, you have a high hangar that parallels the runway.
I'll get back to you. Stand by one.
We're gonna try for another field.
Can't reach any.
What chance have we got with uncalibrated equipment?
They can calibrate during our landing.
In other words, if we splash, they can tell how wrong they were by where our wreckage is.
If you want to look at it that way, they'll be able to bring the others in.
Kenney, you don't know it, but you're married to a guinea pig.
I'm going to switch to wing common. Iron Gate leader to wing. I'm going to attempt a G.C.A. landing. Their equipment has been newly installed and has not been flight tested. However, they will calibrate from my approach. Let's all switch to G.C.A. channel. G.C.A., this is Iron Gate leader. Over.
Roger, Iron Gate leader. Go ahead.
If you're ready to bring us in, we'll give it a try. At 15,000 feet over Rhine, Maine, the weather was clear. At ground level, however, weather was approaching a 0-0 condition. We had flown for 17 hours, but the next 15 minutes would be the toughest. If, as the Russians expected, we failed, their respect for the newly organized Strategic Air Command would be destroyed. However, if we were to make the landing, it would be with equipment that had never been tested. We were, in fact, guinea pigs for the rest of the wing.
G.C.A. to Iron Gate leader. Maintain present heading and descend to 4,000 feet.
Roger. Mixture full rich. RPM 2,500. Come back to 30 inches manifold pressure.
Iron Gate leader, this is G.C.A. The weather at Rhine, Maine is holding 150 feet with a quarter-mile visibility. Calm winds. You will be landing on runway 04. Altimeter is 2992. Set your gyro at this time and do not change it for the remainder of this run. You are now 12 miles northeast of station. Descend to and maintain 3,000 feet. Prepare for a left turn to your downwind leg.
Roger. Understand the weather. Descending to 3,000 feet. Ready for turn to downwind leg.
Iron Gate leader, turn to a heading of 220 degrees and descend to 2,500 feet. This is your downwind leg. Perform initial cockpit check at this time.
Roger. Turning to a heading of 220 degrees. And descending to 2,500 feet. Understand downwind leg. Performing initial cockpit check.
You are now 8 miles northeast of field, heading 220, altitude 2,500 feet. At this time, descend to 2,000 feet.
220, descending to 2,000.
Continue your descent to 1,500 feet, heading 220.
Roger. 220, descending to 1,500. He had us if the equipment was working properly, something we wouldn't know till it might be too late.
Iron Gate Leader, you are now 8 miles southeast. You should be at 1,500 feet, heading 220 degrees. Perform your final cockpit check at this time. Your gear should be down and locked. Prepare for a turn to your base leg.
Gear down and locked.
Landing check completed. Over.
You think he's where your equipment indicates?
Sir, there's no way I can tell.
Have crash truck standing by both ends of runway 04. Something wrong?
Sir, he's relying on me up there. If this equipment is wrong, I can run him right into the ground.
G.C.A., this is Iron Gate. You still with me, boy?
Roger, you should be at 2,000 feet. Disregard 1,200 feet. Disregard 1,500 feet.
G.C.A., this is Iron Gate. You're doing a good job. Now stick with it, fella. We'll make it okay.
Iron Gate, this is G.C.A. Turn right to a heading of 310 degrees. Your altitude should be 1,200 feet. This turn will put you on the base leg.
310. On the base, 1,200. Keep up the chatter.
Iron Gate Leader, continue your turn to 040 degrees. You are now turning on your final approach. Your altitude should be 1,200 feet. This is your final controller. Do not acknowledge any further transmissions. If you lose contact for any 5-second period, execute missed approach procedure. I brought you in too close. Establish your rate of descent. You're slightly high on the glide path. Adjust your rate of descent. You're correcting back to the glide path nicely. You're 20 feet high, 10 feet high. You are now back on the glide path. Correct 2 degrees to heading of 042. You are now 1 mile from touchdown and slightly to left of center line. Correct back. You're now approaching G.C.A. minimums. You should be over runway at this time.
You see anything?
Nothing.
Send him around. He's too high and to the left. Send him around. Pull up. Take it around.
I see the runway lights. We're off to the left. We're not going to do that again, are we?
How far to the right were those runway lights?
About 200 feet, sir.
Could you tell how far we were down the runway?
Too far, Colonel.
I asked you how far.
About halfway, sir.
G.C.A., this is Iron Gate.
Iron Gate Leader, this is G.C.A. I'm sorry, sir. I'm sorry.
Stick with it now. If you can allow for the error in your equipment, we got it hacked. We were 200 feet too far to the left and broke out halfway down the runway. Can you adjust?
I don't know, sir. It'll be tough.
We can climb out of this and bail out.
We're the only chance the boys behind us have. If they can bring us in, the rest of the wing has got it made. G.C.A., this is Iron Gate Leader. I'm level at 1,500 feet. We'll try it again. This time we'll make it.
Roger. Turn right to a heading of 130, and I'll get you right back in the pattern.
As I made my turn, I knew that this one had to be right. The rest of my wing was approaching Rhine, Maine. If I didn't get down, neither would they. With fuel low, they were stacking up over the station. Down below, the Russians knew the spot we were in. Our attempt at a show of force might end as a disaster. Winston Churchill had called U.S. air power a shield. Well, at that moment, the shield was no bigger than the blip on a radar screen, an uncalibrated radar screen. Carefully, the radar operator worked to get me around the pattern and back to the final approach. For me, this would be a battle all the way, between my nerves and my mind. The one urging me to trust my own senses, the other, the man on the ground.
Do not acknowledge any further transmissions. If you lose contact for any 5 seconds, climb out. You are now 3 miles from touchdown. Adjust your rate of descent to 600 feet per minute. You are on the glide path. On course. You are now 2 miles from touchdown. You're over the glide path. 5 feet. 10 feet. 15 feet. Adjust your rate of descent. Adjust your rate of descent. Your correction is good. You're now 10 feet over. 5 feet over. You are now on the glide path. On course. Now you're drifting left. Turn right 1 degree. 2 degrees. 3 degrees. Your correction is good. You are approaching center line. You're 1 mile from touchdown. You're below the glide path. 5 feet. 10 feet. 15 feet.
Maybe you ought to send him around again.
Good correction. Very good. You're 5 feet under. You're back on the glide path. On course. You are crossing field boundary. Glide path good. Touchdown in 3 seconds. You're over runway. Glide path good.
See you soon.
Nice work, G.C.A.
Now, if I can just get the rest of the wing down.
You will. Iron Gate Leader to wing. I am sitting on the ground. G.C.A. operator now knows the proper correction for the error in the instrument. Just follow instructions, he'll get you down.
Iron Gate 2, descend to 2,000 feet.
From then on, it was G.C.A.'s show. One by one, the 29s landed until the whole wing was on the ground. That afternoon, the 4 Power Control Council met in Berlin. The Russians attended, and they were very congenial, too. The new Strategic Air Command had demonstrated its ability. The Russians, like the rest of Europe, were impressed.
I'll be back in a moment to tell you more about Colonel Evans. Training men to rely on instruments rather than feel has been a necessary adjunct to the advance of aviation. And it has been Air Force men like Bob Evans who have helped and are still helping to push back the frontiers of flight.